So hi guys, so the Sony A7C, new digital camera, mirrorless camera from Sony. In the UK it's for retailing at 1,899 quid, so 100 quid change out of £2,000. So not cheap, but not hugely expensive at the same time. It has the usual systems in there that all the other Sony mirrorlesses have nowadays. So the fast hybrid AF phase detection, contrast detection as well. Has 693 focus points. There's no battery grip available for it, which the whole point of it is supposed to be compact. So why would you stick another grip on it? I'm sure someone in China will be making one for it, but who knows? You're looking at the new FZ100 battery that's used now in the A7R4, for example. So the battery will last a good amount of time. It has, so they cram in quite a bit, don't they? It's got Bluetooth, wireless LAN, so it's got, in theory, it might be able to actually do wireless tethering to your PC, possibly. Don't know. USB Type-C, HDMI micro, which is kind of handy, but they're a bit scary because it always feels like you're going to snap it off. It's got the multi-interface hot shoe, mic terminal, so 3.5mm jack with headphone terminal as well. It has got, which is quite good, even on the EVF, it's got a tiny little EVF on the left-hand side of the body. It has actually got diopter adjustment, which is, saves you wearing glasses, which is really quite handy. I'm not sure if all cameras do that, but all the Sonys I've used has always had it. Dynamic range 15 stops, so very good sensor. It's basically the same sensor out of the A7 III, the 24.2 megapixel. Exposure mode, so you have got full auto and iAuto. You've got programmable AE, P mode basically. Aperture priority, shutter speed priority, full manual. You've got movie mode, programmable, aperture priority, and shutter speed at priority and manual as well. So that's good. Flash sync speed is kind of limited. You only got 1/160th of a second. Does do 10 frames per second burst, which is good. And good news as well, it's got 5-axis, up to 5 stops of stabilization. So that's good. In the box though, you get obviously one of the batteries, the FZ100 batteries, AC adapter, shoulder strap, body cap, accessory shoe cap, which is really handy, stops the rain getting into the hot shoe and giving you random messages on the screen. USB-A to USB-C cable, but no dedicated charger. So a bit like some of the other cameras, I imagine the A7 III doesn't have one either. You might have to buy one of the Sony proper chargers. You can charge it, obviously, the battery in the camera by plugging it in via USB. So yeah, obviously that's just part of it because it's supposed to be a compact, more travel orientated camera. Yeah, ISO maximum is 51,200 and 100 is the minimum. It's only got one card slot, so, but then it's not a professional body. It's not designed for doing a workhorse job. It's literally someone who's going travelling or someone who just wants something slightly smaller to fit in a bag a little bit easier. Same rear screen, the new flippy one. So of the A7S III. So it's that one. It flips out and flips around. Benefit of that screen is that you can turn it around and actually protect the screen while your camera's in your bag, or rub it up against your body or whatever. If you've got buttons and stuff, you're not going to scratch the rear screen on that thing. So that's quite good. Like I say, it's a 24.2 full frame sensor, 35.6mm times 23.8. It's an Exmor R CMOS. This is where you are a little bit limited. So I don't actually know without looking what the A7 III can do, but this is limited to a 1/4000th of a second shutter speed. So this is where, for me, if you're using fast lenses, as in f1.4, f1.2s, f1.8s, sometimes you need that 1/8000th of a second or more depending on what you're trying to achieve. So this is obviously limited by that. You know, so there are obviously some limitations to this camera, but for the price point, you kind of got to expect that. Weight-wise, just general, its basic weight with no lens or anything is 509 grams, so just over half a kilo. Where the A73, if I believe, is something like 670 or 662, something like that. I think it rings a bell. So it's only just over 100 grams heavier. So weight-wise, not a lot in it. Size-wise, though, this is where it's quite amusing. So they're calling it a compact camera. And I kind of realised now, actually looking at all the other reviews out here and things like that, and just sort of stand back and sort of being a bit open-minded about the situation. So to put it in context, for example, the A7C, so the new camera, is 124 millimeters wide, so 12.4 centimeters wide. It's 71.1 millimeters high, 7.1 centimeters high, 59.7 millimeters deep, so pretty much six centimeters deep. The A73, an example, is 126.9 millimeters, so 12.7 centimeters wide, 95.6 millimeters high, so it's a couple of centimeters taller, and that's basically just the EVF. Depth wise is 73.7, so 7.4 centimeters wide, pretty much. So it's a couple of centimeters, well, yeah, just over a centimeter deeper than the A7C. So physically, it's not a huge difference, but maybe it's more to thinking about it. Maybe it's more to do with feel and what you're used to. So if you have an A6000, for example, or an A6400 or an A6500, A6600, and you've had them for a couple of years, and you're kind of thinking, oh, I wish I could go full frame, but I don't know if I really want to. Don't know, you know, this, that, and the other, and you're kind of used to those cameras. Well, this is kind of like halfway between. So it's kind of like halfway between the A7 III and an A6600, for example. Because there's no EVF on the top, right, sitting on top of the where the hot shear is and everything, right in the middle of the camera, and you've got a small EVF to the left-hand side. Form factor and the grip and everything, form factor is basically the same as an A6600, for example. So in your hand, if you've gone from an A6000 series camera, so one of the four, into the A7C, it's going to feel very similar. It's going to feel very easy to get used to. I think that's kind of where they've gone. So even though it's basically like a slightly smaller version of an A7 III, I think that's where they've actually kind of looked at it as a, you know, kind of like a merging point. So, you know, kind of maybe, you know, it's allowing someone who's used to that that form factor is just basically pick it up and use it, and they'll be very happy because they're used to using one dial at the back and the wheel at the back to adjust their shutter speed and f-stop and everything like that, rather than having one at the front by your shutter button and one behind. And incidentally, apparently default, the top dial just behind the shutter button sort of thing at the top of the camera is actually f-stop as default, but ideally you'd have that as shutter speed, and you'd actually have your wheel down the bottom on the back as your f-stop. I would swap them around personally, but that's how I would work. I'd say it's only got one card slot, and this is where obviously for the price point, I mean, you're looking at you know, the price point of these cameras, you know, for, if I can find one, there we go. So for example, the Sony A7 III, I'm just going to look at quickly at the specs because I think there's going to be a couple here. So flash sync speed straight away. So on the A7C, it's 1/160th of a second, where the flash sync speed on the A7 III is 1/250th of a second. So you've got a bit more to play with there. Flash sync speed, 10 frames a second is the same. 5-axis, 5 stop body, stabilization. So very similar to that. Very well, it's exactly the same ISO minimums and maximums. But what I was actually going to look for, yeah. So shutter speed differences. So on the A73, you have got the full 1/8,000th of a second, which is obviously very good. And you're looking at, I mean, to be honest, you can buy brand new an A73 for now £1,749, and that's from Wex. You get a 2-year warranty with it, and you can actually free 1 year extended warranty, so it would take up to 3 years. So for less money, you can actually now get a better camera than this A7C. Yes, it hasn't got the flippy screen, so if that flippy screen that comes around the side and he rotates is kind of a needed thing, I would say, okay, that's kind of the breaker for you. But you know, there's a lot of other things in there that you know, could make or break that decision on what you need. You know, so all of the camera systems basically now, you know, in the Sony line anyway, they're all amazing. Doesn't matter which one you decide you're going to use, in the real world they're brilliant. It's all about learning your kit. So, you know, the fact is this new A7C, you know, has some limitations, and actually the fact I've just looked and it's more expensive than the A73, you know, it could be a different thing here. But now I'm looking at some different, actually I'm looking at different here, so this could be a bit of a mistake on some other places, but it's actually saying that the shutter speed can do 1/8,000th of a second on the A7C. So I don't know, unless someone has got one out there and watches this video and that can actually confirm if it does 1/4000th of a second or it does 1/8000th of a second. That's the only two things I can actually see that could be slightly different, obviously depending on how they've put some of the reviews up and stuff like that. So, you know, it's, I don't know, but I basically think my views on it are that the A6000 series, this is almost like a crossover camera. So people who still want a smallish, compact kind of feeling camera, even though it's not really that much smaller than the other ones, and they want to go full frame from the APS-C sensors, I think this is kind of your stepping point where it could work really quite nicely for you if you're used to that kind of camera. Without being sounding sexist, if you're a girl and you've got quite small hands, this is probably perfect for you. If you have got smaller hands, it could fit in your hand quite well, because it's just a smaller camera, and if you've got small hands, it's going to work better for you at the end of the day. You know, other than that, you know, it's all about your budget and what you need out of a camera at the end of the day. But obviously, if you are going from APS-C to, like say for example, the A7C, and now you need full frame lenses, this is where it starts getting a bit more expensive, because the full frame lenses are more expensive. Doesn't matter if you buy the cheaper ones or the high end ones, they're all more expensive than the APS-C versions. So, you know, it's just something to take into consideration. It's 4K videos. They haven't upgraded it or anything. It's literally 4K, 30 frames per second, or 120 frames per second, 1080p. It does do 24 frames per second, etc., depending on which mode you're in. But yeah, there's no high frame rate yet in the 4K area. Like I say, that flippy screen at the back, great idea. It flips around to the side so you can see yourself as if you want to do a little bit of vlogging or whatever, even though it's not actually a vlogging camera. Or if it's on a tripod and you want to do, you know, just see things, or have it aimed up at you, aimed down if you're, you know, if you're holding it above people, looking over people, that's quite handy. And the real benefit in what I think is that it's protected. So when you fold it back in, you can actually have it folded with the screen facing into the camera, so it's actually protected from scratches and stuff like that. So, you know, other than that, I mean, the EVF is too small, obviously, but they've kind of fitted it in there. Doesn't work very well as a, you know, if it's sunny and bright light, because there's no rubber eyepiece or anything like that. So when you look into it, you're kind of looking through a small hole with your eye slightly away to see it properly. But I kind of say it's better than nothing. The multi-hot shoe on the top, I think personally, don't think it's going to cause problems, but if you've only got a small, one of those tiny little flash guns, it could cause you red eye or shadowing due to the size of the lenses on your body. If you can reach over that lens it's on the body. don't know. As I say, I haven't actually tried this camera. It's just my views. Other than that, price point, like I say, you can buy a brand new A73 for less. So for me, if I was in this market and I was thinking about going full frame, personally I would buy an A73. Slightly higher spec, built probably just as well. Obviously you haven't got the flippy screen that's the same as the new one, but same battery, and I think you'd probably find it easier to use just generally because it's bigger and better in the hand. But like I say, it's all personal choice. Other than that, I would, it's all down to what you need. So anyway guys, that was just a quick kind of like look at it in a real world kind of feel. Yeah, that's it really. I mean, it's not an amazing, exciting Sony release, is it? I'm still waiting for, and I know a lot of people who watch my channel are waiting for the RX10 Mark V. So Sony, if you're watching, which I do know that you are now, kind of checking my channel out every now and again, because obviously the 200 or 600 issues. But Sony, if you are watching, where's this RX10 Mark V, or the new lineup for something that maybe replaces it? Because there's definitely a lot of people out there who are waiting for such a thing. So anyway, that's it guys. Like I say, please leave comments below. Put your 10p's worth in. I mean, it's interesting to see what other people think, and what you might need. Are you a APS-C kind of camera person? Are you thinking about going full frame? What's your budget? I mean, if you need some advice in this kind of thing, I'm happy to sort of help and possibly give you a little bit of advice before you spend the money. But like I say, it's all down to your personal use, personal needs, and your personal budget at the end of the day. Yeah, so don't forget to click that subscribe button and like the video as well. That's always good because it helps get it seen. And like I say, comment below, and I shall see you soon.